Hello, and welcome to Voices for Mental Health, the podcast where we bring hope, inspiration, and real talk about mental well-being through the stories of everyday people, mental health peers, and experts in the field. I'm your host, Candace Schoner, and I'm here with my co-host, Carrie Kerwick, and our guest today, former vet and author, Kijuan, who goes by Kiwi, Amey, to talk about the power of faith and positive thinking. Welcome, Kijuan.
Thank you for having me, Candace, as well as Carrie. I really appreciate you guys having me on here to tell my story as well.
Well, we appreciate it and also appreciate your service. I failed to mention in the intro, and I want to make sure that people do know this, that you served in the United States Air Force until you sustained significant life-threatening injuries in the motorcycle accident that we're going to talk about with our viewers and how it left you blind.
Yes.
So before we get into it, though, because I'm going to start calling you Kiwi, and I think Carrie's going to as well, how did you get the nickname Kiwi?
Yeah, and by the way, it's completely okay for you to call me Kiwi. If you've ever read my book, you're probably calling me that anyway, because that's how I keep signing off on my book. So Kiwi, the nickname, we got to go back to childhood. And so my great aunt, Christine, we call her Aunt Polly. And God rest her soul because she has passed on. She passed on when I was serving. And she gave me that nickname when I was a kid. And I'm not, city raised. I mean, well, I guess you say I'm city raised but country born type, So we were living back in the sticks for a little bit where you would have to go out in the country. And that's where you did a lot of your playing. You don't do too much playing in the city because cars are there, So, well, you do a lot of playing and run around and bike riding, dirt bike riding, trampoline jumping, whatever you could think of, I was definitely in need of a name because it was one that needed to cut through the trees. Now, what I mean by that is, for anybody who has ever lived in the country, the trees, can kind of, dim a little bit of the sound if it's not loud enough. So, for example, hog handlers, they do like that type of thing to cut through. So now I'm pretty sure you're already catching on to the we part. So now instead of you saying Kiwan, because I might hear the key part, but that one, I'm not hearing it because it's dropping down in octaves. So now I'm hearing Kiwi. And that's how they used to call me. That's how my aunt would stand out on the stoop and call me. And if she needed me to come home or come do something, whatever it was, and I'm like, uh-oh, I think I hear something. Yep, that's her. Gotta go. So that's how I got that name in childhood. Now, fast forward to the Air Force. Yes, the Air Force, because they kept that name.
It's funny because when you told me that story and you're a country boy, I thought of, isn't it suey to call in the hogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it makes sense to me. I think Carrie's got a question for you.
So thanks for sharing with us a little bit about your childhood. I wanted to know a little more about yourself and kind of where do you call home now? And what was life like prior to the accident?
Okay, yeah. So, I was born and raised in Durham, North Carolina, by the way. And before Durham blew up to what it is now, and what I mean by that is a whole lot of people there now. A whole lot, to the point where you don't want to live there unless you're into that big city living. And I told you I didn't really live that lifestyle. I was more so into the country, and you don't see many people in the country. You might wave every so often throughout the day. And so anyway, that's why I grew up in Durham, but most people, where I stayed, we were outside, like near, if anybody is listening and they're familiar with Durham, where South Point is, out there before those car dealerships and even South Point Mall was there, that was sticks, all woods. And now all that stuff is cut down because they finally got people to sell their property to that mall and those car dealerships. And so that's where my aunt used to live, back in that area. And so it's interesting to say, that that's where she used to live, but it's also sad, because I remember where I used to be in those woods and riding dirt bikes and all that stuff back through there. We even made our own trail, so um, that's where I grew up. Literally all my life I stayed in Durham. Well, as far as before I went to the military, because I would go to the military in the Air Force, where you, of course, do your basic training in San Antonio, Texas. But I had to go to, let's see, so San Antonio, from San Antonio, I went to Spokane, Washington. From Spokane, Washington, I went to Altus, Oklahoma. Altus, Oklahoma, I came back to North Carolina, to Goldsboro, North Carolina, where I was stationed. And that's all in a whole year. That was within a whole year's timeline. And when I tell you there's some interesting places in the world, there are some interesting places, and I haven't even left the U.S.
That is so true. I mean, you've had a very interesting life up till now, and I'm going to have an interesting life after now, I know for sure.
Yeah.
But you were very active, as you just talked about, riding bikes and then being in the service and everything that you do. Can you take us back to May 5th, 2017, when you did have the horrific motorcycle accident, and take us back to that day and what you remember?
Yeah, so May 5th, what some might call Cinco de Mayo, I call my new life's journey. And you'll find out here in a second why. So May 5th, actually, I was a reservist at this point. I had already served my active duty term that I was going to do. And I say that because I Palace Chase, which means I did not complete my term, but they just switched it over to the reserves and they added on to my reserve commitment. And when I did that, loved the reserve life, by the way. It was awesome. I still got to do the same job I did on active duty, just didn't have to spend a lot of time at a desk. And that's the only thing I did not like about active duty, was spending the time at a desk. And so May 5th, 2017, I had to work that weekend for the Air Force. But before I went to work for the Air Force that weekend, I also had another business, because I currently own a business called Amey Motivation. I still have legal paperwork for Kiwi Enterprise, which is the other business that I'm getting ready to mention. But that's the one I own and primarily focus on now is Amey Motivation, which is my motivational speaking, trusted mentoring, and resilience coaching. Now with Kiwi Enterprise, the reason I don't really focus on that one is because it's website design and management. It is social media marketing and photography. Now, what I'm getting ready to tell you in this accident is why I don't primarily focus on that one anymore. So let's get to it. Well, May 5th, I am getting ready to, I thought about taking a nap that day because, like I told you, I had to work that weekend. Well, my brain wouldn't allow me to rest. It was like, whatever, dude, you need to go do stuff. You have a business, you need to get things done for the week. And okay, gosh, all right, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go do it. But I decided not to drive my car. I decided to ride my motorcycle because it was such a nice day outside. I mean, it was a beautiful spring day in May. And here in North Carolina, when you get a great day like that, you take it. Because one day it's raining and the next day it's beautiful. The next day you're just like, I don't even know what to think, because it's going to be both raining and sunshine. So you try to take the best days you can when it comes to motorcycle riding in the spring. And I pulled the bike out, went to the location where I had to take the photos for the website, because I was going to update the pictures, which was actually my church's website. I was the webmaster for them. And I did the shots, took all the photos. And what I was going to do over the weekend is, while I was, just lounging or whatever, not flying, of course, lounging, I would be updating, well, first off, editing the photos and then updating the website. Well, here's where the problem lies. So on the motorcycle from my apartment to the church was only a 10-minute ride. So that's short for a motorcycle. I don't care who riding, male, female, it does not matter. brand new, young, older, it does not matter. That is short. So I'm like, huh?
Not enough time for a motorcycle ride.
Not enough. And so it feels like you just sat down. And so I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna ride a little bit more. Where can I go though? The lake. So I always went to this lake here in North Carolina called Jordan Lake, and I had my own little spot. It was my spot. Everybody has their spot where they go to rest, relax, whether it's in your house, outside, in nature, wherever. You have some spot that you want to go relax, meditate, and release, those types of things. And this was my spot. And so here I am, headed that way, and it's 30 minutes one way from where my church was, and about the same for my apartment, depending on which direction you went. And so anyway, I take off and get there with no problems, and then a car comes by when I'm just sitting out there zoned out, and it kind of brings me back to reality. And I'm like, oh snap! So I look down at my watch, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta get my stuff. I still gotta go to work tonight, And so I take off, and I'm headed down the road. And in North Carolina, we have these really tall trees when you're basically in the woods, even some along them highways, but they're really tall. And when I say really tall, I'm thinking maybe 30 feet tall, something like that. To me, that's really tall because I can't get up there. And they're all along the street on this back road anyway, they're all along the street unless there's an intersection, a driveway, or like a gas station, and then there's like this one produce farm back there. Those are the only things that the trees were cut back for, so that people can see, when they're coming from there's areas, and not, pull out in front of somebody. And funny enough. And so as I'm riding, what do you think happens? At an intersection, a silver Honda Accord would pull out in front of me. And here is where I always tell the same story. I had 3 options. I could go right and go into those really tall trees that I told y'all about. They're not gonna move, I promise. So I could have went into the trees. I could have went left and went into oncoming traffic, because it's only a 2-lane road. This is not like multiple lanes where I could duck out of the way. No, this is just 2 lanes. The traffic, or the lane that I'm in, and the traffic that's coming past me. And then the third option was to do what basically ended up happening, and that's freezing up and hitting him. And honestly, that may have been the best thing for me. And the reason I say that is because he's now moving forward in front of me. If I would have hit a car that was coming head on, that would have been like twice the inertia when we impact. And then if I hit a tree, that's not going anywhere. So that's still even worse of an impact. At least he's pulling away from me, Granted, it's still hitting metal, but that's where the problem lied, is that he would pull out in front of me. And yes, I do know it was a he because of the police report. And then also from said police report is that there were 2 cars behind him at this same intersection that saw me coming. And they did not know why he didn't see me, which is on the police report. I said, well, that was an easy lawsuit, but I would still prefer, to have my normal life back.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I would have to be life flighted to UNC Hospital in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, due to all the sustained injuries that I suffered. Not to only include, traumatic brain injury, my face being crushed in, so now I have 2 metal plates in my head. When my right eye was popped out because somehow the bottom portion of the eyelid on my right eye was torn off. I don't even know how. I never asked if they understood what happened. I mean, anything can happen with an accident like this. My jaw, of course, was broken. I had, of course, severe swelling on my brain from the impact. What else?
So you woke up about a month later from the accident, the medically induced coma, and I was wondering if you could describe that moment. What was it like realizing what had happened to you?
Well, at first I just thought I was waking up in my bed.
Wow.
I didn't know I was in a hospital because there was nothing beeping, none of that. I mean, at this point, I'm just literally coming out of a coma, and they've done everything, like as far as surgeries anyway. I hadn't even realized that I had a neck collar on. I hadn't realized that my body wasn't really moving like it normally does. None of that, because now when I wake up, all I hear is voices, and it's not doctors or nurses. These are familiar voices, and it was my girlfriend at the time, and my mom. And so I'm trying to figure out, wait a minute, why are y'all in my room? Like, I could understand why my girlfriend would be here, but what the heck is my mom doing here? You know, hello, I'm not decent. And so that's all I could think of at the point in time. And they were talking about, to me, it was a motorcycle accident because I didn't know it was me. So it was a motorcycle accident. I'm trying to figure out who was it. They never said. Everything was generalized. I wish this never happened. This is so sad. You know, motorcycles are, and you know, I'm hearing all these things. I'm like, who are they talking about? And so finally, it took a while. And I'm playing possum at this moment. I'm not letting them know that I'm awake or anything. And so I finally try to, attempt to open my eyes, and I do, only not to be able to see anything. And so this was not a gradual loss. This was, I woke up without eyesight. And so I did one of those super hard blinks, and I'm like, okay, maybe my eyes aren't clearing up. Something ain't right. And so I opened them again, only not to be able to see. Okay, somebody pressed the panic button because this is not right. And I basically went to try to speak, and I say try again. We're attempting here. Remember, I told you my jaw was broken. That's why I kind of laid out those things. Yeah. Well, I went to speak, and all I could say was, my jaw was wired shut.
I can only imagine how horrible that would feel, and to also not know whether you would have your sight back again. And again, I could talk to you for hours, and I wish we had an hour-long podcast, but we only have 30 minutes. And I want to get to the part about the role faith plays in your life and your recovery. Carrie's got another question.
So how did your spirituality and the support of family and friends help you through this?
Like you already mentioned, faith was huge in my life, still is. Like I told you, I played drums yesterday, which is at my church. And during that time when I first had the accident, two things were going on that were faith-based. First off, they wanted to call in a chaplain, to pray for me for some reason. Not some reason. They didn't think I was going to make it at all. Right. That was the first thing. No doctor, nurse ever thought I was going to make it out of this. And then, so my grandmother, of course, God bless her, she was like, we're calling our pastor. Because y'all just calling somebody here just to do a prayer. No, we're calling somebody here to do a prayer of life. Mm-hmm. And so they called my pastor, who lived, I think about anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes away from that hospital. And this was in the middle of the night now. This is like maybe midnight, 1 a.m., something like that. And him and his wife got out of their bed and came to that hospital and prayed. Mm-hmm. Not over the phone. They came in person. Right. So that was one. The second one was my uncle. He's also a pastor at his church. But so their church and two other churches that they fellowship with created a 24-hour prayer wall. Wow. And what that means is they prayed every hour on the hour until I got out of there.
I got a question about faith. And did you ever question your faith, given the insurmountable challenges that you were facing and knew that you'd be facing?
Absolutely. I think that's only the human thing to do, to be honest. The first, and it kind of plays hand in hand in my book title, Don't Focus on Why Me, because that's what the first thing we do as a victimized human is we question why me. And that was what I did. I did. Trust me. Me and God had that talk, and it was a real one. Because I'm trying to figure out, I was doing what, to me, I thought I was doing everything right. Well, it's not always about doing what's right. It's about what he needs you to do. And we don't know that, especially me. I didn't know that at the age of 25. I'm just living life, because that's when this accident occurred. I'm 25 and I'm just living life. And so I definitely questioned him in my faith, but eventually he responded, and it was the same day. It was not like a week later, a month later. No, it was the same day. And so we have to just understand that what he wants for us is what's best for us.
Right. That's actually great advice for someone who may be questioning their faith in the face of that type of tragedy. So you faced a lot of challenges, as we've seen, both physically and emotionally, including probably socially, I'm assuming. What was the biggest mental challenge that you faced that you needed to overcome?
I think the first one, for sure, because I know one that always sticks out to me, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this in my book. I might have. But if you're familiar with the term ghosted, that is a harsh reality.
Yes.
Yes.
And I had a girlfriend at the time that her and I, we were vibing, okay? I mean, strongly, before this accident. But somehow after, I don't know what was happening. Like, it was like, at first she was coming to the hospital. Then she was, she might make one trip to the house when I finally got home. And then I'm trying to beg you to come see me, but I'm confused. Then after the third strike, when you don't show up, it was literally 3 different times she did not show up. And after that, I couldn't even get a hold of her. And I'm trying to figure out why. Well, it was because she changed her phone number.
Oh, jeez.
So sorry for that.
That is a true ghosting.
That had to be horribly painful emotionally.
Well, it made me feel like I wasn't worth anything. That's what I felt like at the time, because of where I was at the time. Now, I'm way more mature now to understand, but at that time, I felt like I was worth nothing.
That's because of where you placed your value?
Yep.
At that point?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Me being a faith believer, I now understand you don't put faith or trust in man. You put it in God. That's where your trust should lie.
Amen.
So when I started putting it in man, that was when I kept getting let down. And understanding, okay, I'm doing the wrong thing. Something's wrong. When I started to see the repeat cycle, I was like, okay, hold on. Go back, rewind. What am I doing wrong? Because there's something not right. And that was where I found it. I was trusted in person.
Didn't you tell me in the pre-interview your ex-girlfriend came back and was very helpful in your recovery?
Yes, my ex. She was very, very helpful. See, the one that I'm referring to that ghosted me was my girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend, she came back and she was like, oh, gosh, I mean, that was actually who was in my room talking with my mom.
I mean,
in my hospital room.
That had to feel pretty good, I would say.
I would say yes, because not only was she there, like she was like always there, not just there. I mean, like, people come and they say, oh, hey, you doing okay today? No. When I say always there, I mean like, dang girl, will you leave? It's okay to leave. You can go get something to eat or whatever. No, man, she was always there. And I wrote about her in my book, and I'm so appreciative for her and everything she did. I mean, we did have a little falling out because she tried to push me too hard one day. And I was like, I'm not there yet. And I would listen, there's nothing more that I want to do than to do for myself.
Which is admirable.
Yes. There's nothing more that I would want to do than to do for myself. And when I was coming back, from this accident, I couldn't do a lot of things that I used to because I was so weak. I had never felt that vulnerable and weak in my life. And I was just like, she was like, no, you got to do it. You need to do it, blah, blah, blah. And left me in that position. And I said, wait a minute. Okay, I see what this is going to be. And when I tell you, it had to be God. I got out of that situation and she was trying to stop me. And I said, no, get out of my way. I'm going to walk all the way back to my bed. And I wasn't even supposed to be walking yet.
That's incredible. I want to get to the book because we've only got about a minute and 40 seconds left.
Okay.
So share some information about the book and what inspired you to write it. I think I have a pretty good idea what that was. And what do you want your readers to take away from it?
Well, yeah, first and foremost, again, the title, Don't Focus on Why Me, from Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. Well, the don't focus on why me is me doing my best to get other people to understand, don't take pity on yourself. You need to figure out the why not me, and then you could be successful in moving forward in life. So the person or people, shall I say, who really, kind of pushed me along in writing this book, one, he's now deceased. That was my best friend since we were 5 years old. And he passed away a couple of years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago. But anywho, he was very adamant about me. Hey, man, you got to tell your story. We got to get you on some stages. We got to make blah, blah, blah. Hey, man, I'm not a good English. I wasn't good at English, okay? I probably had a C+ average. And so anyway, he was very instrumental in this thing, and anybody else who was around me all the time. When they come see me, do you have to tell your story? And that's kind of that's basically where that book came from.
So in about the next 30 seconds that we have left, can you tell people where to find the book and if they want to talk to you or email you, how they can get in touch with you?
Yes, you can go to my website, ameymotivation.com. That's AMEY motivation.com. My book is on there. Again, it's titled Don't Focus on Why Me, from Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. And if you want to book me for any motivational speaking or anything like that, that's the same place you can go to, that same website.
You are truly an inspiration. So glad we had the chance to chat with you today. Hopefully we will stay in touch. I would love to stay in touch with you and continue the good work that you're doing, because you've come so far and I'm so impressed. And I'm losing my voice over this. So to all of our listeners, thank you for listening. And remember, you are not alone.